the terrifying legend of a female ghost that kidnaps children and slices their mouths open with giant scissors. The story takes place in Japan when an entire town is shaken by the terrifying legend of a ghost known as Kuchisake Onna. The horrifying tale quickly becomes the talk of the town, especially among children. According to the legend, Kuchisake Onna appears as a woman wearing a white mask to conceal the gruesome slit across her mouth, along with a cream-colored leather coat. Whenever she encounters someone, she asks a single question: "Am I beautiful?" She then removes her mask to reveal her mouth, torn wide open from one ear to the other. Rumor has it that she kidnaps children, drags them back to her hideout, and slices their mouths open with the scissors she always carries. People also believe she appears in a local park every day at exactly 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
口だけ女。嘘。白いマスクをして、口が耳までグワーって、私綺麗って。
Hoping to find out whether the legend is true, 3 young boys hide nearby and keep watch over the park. Meanwhile, elsewhere in town, a little girl named Mika lives a heartbreaking life. Every day she becomes the target of her mother's anger, who still harbors resentment toward her husband for abandoning the family and leaving them buried in debt. As a result of the constant abuse, Mika's mouth is bruised and her body is covered with painful marks. At the local school, a teacher named Yamashita notices 3 of her students still chatting after class and tells them to head home before nightfall. A short while later, she walks up to the school rooftop to enjoy the evening sunset. Elsewhere inside one of the classrooms, another teacher named Matsuzaki is disturbed after noticing a drawing of Kuchisake Onna on the chalkboard that had been left behind by his students. Just as he is about to erase it, a powerful earthquake suddenly strikes the town, sending everyone into a panic. At that exact moment, Matsuzaki begins hearing eerie whispers that leave him frozen with fear. Meanwhile, inside an abandoned house that has stood empty for years, a sealed wardrobe suddenly creaks open on its own. From within it, the real Kuchisake Onna finally emerges. After the earthquake subsides, the 3 boys are still waiting at the park. They begin doubting the legend since it is already past 5 o'clock and there is still no sign of the ghost. But the moment they let their guard down, Kuchisake Onna suddenly appears right behind them and abducts one of the boys.
口先女なんか出ないじゃん。
The following day, after the disappearance of one of the boys sends shockwaves throughout the entire town, the school gathers all of its students in the auditorium. As everyone assembles, Mika can be seen wearing a white mask to cover the bruises around her mouth. Instead of receiving sympathy, however, she becomes the target of several girls who mockingly call her Kuchisake Onna. Shortly afterward, the principal announces a new set of safety rules. From that day on, classes will end earlier than usual, and all students must walk home in groups while being accompanied by either their parents or a teacher. The children are also forbidden from leaving home without their parents' permission or talking to strangers. The school believes that a kidnapper is exploiting the legend of Kuchisake Onna to lure unsuspecting children. Once back in the classroom, Mika is once again bullied by the same group of girls, who continue mocking her by calling her Kuchisake Onna. Moments later, her best friend Natsuki steps in to defend her. But one of the bullies suddenly yanks Mika's mask off, exposing the painful bruises around her mouth for everyone to see. After school, all of the students are divided into groups and escorted home by their teachers and parents. As Natsuki is warmly greeted by both of her parents, Mika can only watch in silence, quietly wishing she had a family like that. Before long, every student has been picked up except for Mika. Yamashita begins wondering why no one has come for her, but a few moments later, Mika's mother, Sasaki, finally arrives. She apologizes for being late because she has been busy with work and asks Mika to come home with her. However, Mika refuses and insists on going home by herself instead. Sensing that something is wrong between the two of them, Yamashita offers to take Mika home herself. Hearing those words, Sasaki can barely contain her anger. A short while later, Yamashita gently asks Mika to tell her what has been happening. Mika slowly removes her mask, revealing the bruises around her mouth, along with countless bruises covering nearly her entire body. Seeing the horrifying injuries, Yamashita realizes that Mika has been abused by her own mother. Mika then tearfully admits that she feels her mother no longer loves her. But as a mother herself, Yamashita immediately scolds Mika and tells her never to say such a thing. In her eyes, there is no such thing as a mother who doesn't love her own child. Feeling completely misunderstood by the one person she hoped would believe her, Mika suddenly runs away. Yamashita quickly chases after her, but her footsteps come to an abrupt halt when the real Kuchisake Onna suddenly appears before her. Frozen in terror, Yamashita can do nothing but watch as the horrifying entity kidnaps Mika and disappears with her, leaving Yamashita unable to move a single muscle. Not long after the incident, the police arrive at the scene and immediately begin their investigation. They question Yamashita about everything that had just happened. Yamashita explains that Mika was abducted by Kuchisake Onna herself. However, the officers completely dismiss her testimony, believing that Kuchisake Onna is nothing more than an urban legend that doesn't actually exist. A short while later, Sasaki arrives at the scene in tears after learning that her daughter has disappeared. Watching Mika's mother break down in grief, Yamashita is overwhelmed with guilt, believing she has failed to protect her own student. After returning home, Yamashita is consumed by guilt over Mika's disappearance. The incident reminds her of her own daughter, so she gathers the courage to call her ex-husband, hoping to speak with her. However, her ex-husband tells her that their daughter is still not ready to talk to her. It is then revealed that before their divorce, Yamashita often took out her frustrations on her daughter and treated her harshly. Although she truly loved her child, she realized her regrets had come far too late. The emotional scars she left behind were so deep that her daughter still refused to see or even speak to her. Yamashita eventually falls asleep, only to be haunted by a nightmare in which her daughter is abducted by Kuchisake Onna. The following day, Sasaki is seen accompanied by the police. One of the officers encourages her to get some rest, but she refuses to sleep and instead breaks down in tears, overwhelmed with guilt. She believes none of this would have happened if she had treated Mika with more love and kindness. Meanwhile, the disappearances of Mika and the young boy have thrown the entire town into chaos, quickly becoming national news. Police officers are deployed across the city to search for the missing children, while a description of the suspect is released to the public in the hope that both victims can be found as soon as possible. Elsewhere, a young girl named Rei and her little sibling are watching the news on television. When they notice their mother wearing a face mask, they jokingly call her Kuchisake Onna. Their mother explains that she's only wearing the mask because she has a bad cough and doesn't want to pass it on to her children. After that, she leaves the house to buy some medicine. Meanwhile, Natsuki takes it upon herself to help search for Mika by handing out missing person flyers. Not long afterward, the same group of girls who had bullied Mika approaches her. Feeling guilty for the way they had treated Mika, they decide to join the search as well. Back at the school, Matsuzaki shows Yamashita an old photograph of a mysterious woman. Yamashita is immediately shocked because the woman in the picture bears an uncanny resemblance to the Kuchisake Onna who abducted Mika.
誰なんですかこの人? 何か知ってるんだったら教えてください.
However, Matsuzaki suddenly hears the eerie whispers once again. From everything he has experienced so far, he is convinced that the whispers are a sign that Kuchisake Onna has returned in search of another victim. Without wasting a second, Matsuzaki rushes toward the place he believes will be the site of the next kidnapping. At first, he refuses to let Yamashita come along, fearing that she could end up in danger. However, after seeing how determined she is to make up for failing to save Mika, Matsuzaki finally agrees to let her join him. Along the way, Matsuzaki explains that ever since Kuchisake Onna's reign of terror began, he has heard eerie whispers every time the entity is about to appear. Strangely, whenever those whispers echo in his ears, another child always ends up being abducted. Meanwhile, a young boy named Masatoshi is watching a news report about Kuchisake Onna. Ever since the mysterious figure first appeared, he has become obsessed with learning everything he can about the legend, carefully writing every new piece of information into a notebook. This time, he discovers another chilling rumor claiming that Kuchisake Onna is immortal and that her hideout is a red-roofed house perched on top of a hill. Suddenly, Masatoshi's doorbell rings. When he opens the door, he finds Matsuzaki and Yamashita, who have come to warn him and keep him safe. Matsuzaki's suspicion proves to be correct. Kuchisake Onna is already inside the house and immediately moves to abduct Masatoshi. As soon as Matsuzaki comes face to face with the terrifying entity, she stares directly at him and asks, "Am I beautiful?" The question leaves him so stunned that he freezes in place. Seeing her partner in danger, Yamashita quickly grabs a kitchen knife and stabs Kuchisake Onna, causing the entity to collapse. But just as they think everything is over, Kuchisake Onna's body suddenly transforms back into that of an ordinary woman. To their shock, the woman turns out to be Rei's mother, who had left earlier that day to buy some medicine. It becomes clear that Kuchisake Onna is actually a malevolent spirit capable of possessing the bodies of women and using them to kidnap children throughout the town. Realizing she has just killed an innocent woman, Yamashita is overwhelmed with guilt. After the incident, Matsuzaki and Yamashita escort Masatoshi to the nearest police station to ensure his safety. Before they part ways, Masatoshi hands them his notebook containing everything he's learned about Kuchisake Onna. Afterward, Matsuzaki and Yamashita visit Rei's house to check on the two children. When they arrive, they find Rei and her younger sibling still waiting for their mother to come home, completely unaware that she has already died. Seeing the two children waiting so hopefully fills Yamashita with even more guilt, believing she has taken away their mother. At the time, however, neither she nor Matsuzaki realizes that Kuchisake Onna is capable of possessing the bodies of other women. They also have no idea that if Yamashita hadn't stopped her, many more innocent people would have become victims. A short while later, Matsuzaki reveals a shocking truth. The mysterious woman he had shown Yamashita in the photograph is actually his own mother, Teiko. 30 years earlier, Taiko had 3 children, and Matsuzaki was one of them. During his childhood, Taiko frequently abused and beat all 3 of her children until they eventually ran away one by one.
暴力を受け
Kuchisake Onna had deliberately let her go to spread fear throughout the town. Natsuki's mouth has been grotesquely slit open, making her look just like Kuchisake Onna herself. Her 3 friends are left completely terrified by her horrifying appearance. Not long afterward, news of Natsuki being found reaches Matsuzaki and Yamashita. They begin studying Masatoshi's notebook, which contains everything he has gathered about Kuchisake Onna. According to his notes, the victims are believed to be held captive inside a red-roofed house on top of a hill. The moment Matsuzaki hears the description, he immediately recognizes it as the house where he spent his childhood. Without wasting another second, he and Yamashita set off for the house. Meanwhile, unable to sit around waiting for news from the police any longer, Sasaki decides to search for Mika on her own. She visits one of Mika's friends and asks if the child knows where her daughter might be. The child tells her that Kuchisake Onna is holding Mika captive in a red-roofed house on top of a hill. After hearing that clue, Sasaki immediately rushes toward the house. Back with Matsuzaki and Yamashita, the 2 finally arrive at the red-roofed house believed to be Kuchisake Onna's hideout. Without wasting any time, they enter the house and begin searching for Mika. As they make their way through one of the rooms, Matsuzaki's attention is drawn to an old wardrobe with its doors standing wide open. The sight instantly brings back the traumatic memories he has spent decades trying to forget. 30 years earlier, Matsuzaki lived in that very house with his mother and his 2 siblings. One day, his mother, Taiko, became possessed by a malevolent entity that inhabited the hill where they lived. From that moment on, Taiko gradually lost control of herself and repeatedly abused all 3 of her children. Eventually, Matsuzaki's 2 siblings were killed by their own mother. Despite everything, Taiko was still conscious deep down. She despised herself for being unable to resist the entity's influence. Realizing that it was only a matter of time before the entity possessed her again and forced her to kill Matsuzaki as well, she begged Matsuzaki to end her life by beheading her with a knife. But Matsuzaki was still just a child and couldn't bring himself to do it. When the entity took control of Taiko once again, he had no choice but to fight back. Unfortunately, his first slash only ripped Taiko's mouth open from one side of her face to the other. Desperate to save himself, Matsuzaki repeatedly stabbed his mother until she died. Overcome by fear and panic, he was unable to carry out her final request to sever her head. Instead, he hid her body inside the wardrobe. From that day on, Taiko's horrifying appearance with her slit mouth became the origin of the legend of Kuchisake Onna. Then, when the earthquake struck earlier in the story, the wardrobe was forced open, allowing the evil entity to escape once again. Snapping back to the present, Matsuzaki immediately searches the wardrobe, but Taiko's body is no longer inside. Instead, he discovers a narrow passage leading to a hidden underground chamber. From within the passage, he hears Mika crying out for help. Matsuzaki and Yamashita quickly make their way into the secret room. Yamashita immediately frees Mika, who is fortunately still alive and has only suffered minor injuries. Meanwhile, Matsuzaki is left horrified after discovering 2 human skeletons lying in one corner of the chamber. Upon taking a closer look, he realizes they are the remains of his 2 siblings who had been missing for the past 30 years. Realizing that the house is no longer safe, Matsuzaki immediately tells Yamashita and Mika that they need to get out. However, after taking only a few steps away from the underground chamber, Matsuzaki hears the eerie whispers once again, the same whispers that have always signaled Kuchisake Onna's arrival. Right on cue, the terrifying entity suddenly appears and launches a brutal attack. She stabs Matsuzaki before slicing through the tendon in his ankle with her scissors, causing him to collapse to the floor, unable to stand. Seeing Matsuzaki gravely injured, Yamashita quickly grabs Mika and tries to escape. But the old house seems to have transformed into a labyrinth. No matter how many times they search for an exit, they can never find one. Taking advantage of their confusion, Kuchisake Onna relentlessly pursues them and eventually cuts off their escape. Moments later, Mika are forced back into the underground chamber. There, Kuchisake Onna viciously beats Matsuzaki for trying to rescue her captives. Once she is certain that Matsuzaki is no longer capable of fighting back, she turns her attention toward Mika, preparing to kill her next. Meanwhile, Sasaki finally arrives at the red-roofed house where Mika is believed to be held captive. Although she is terrified after seeing bloodstains throughout the house, she pushes forward in search of her daughter. A short while later, Sasaki finds Yamashita unconscious and quickly wakes her up. After regaining consciousness, Yamashita grabs a knife lying on the floor, while Sasaki rushes into the underground chamber to find Mika. Down below, Kuchisake Onna is just about to finish off the helpless Matsuzaki. At that very moment, Yamashita rushes in and stabs Kuchisake Onna, sending the entity crashing to the ground. Seizing the opportunity, Matsuzaki painfully crawls toward the knife. He knows that the only way to stop the nightmare is to behead the body currently possessed by Kuchisake Onna before the evil spirit can escape and possess another host. But it is already too late. Just before Matsuzaki can strike, Kuchisake Onna's body suddenly transforms back into Natsuki's mother. This can only mean one thing: the evil spirit has already left her body and found a new host, Sasaki. In an instant, Sasaki transforms into Kuchisake Onna and attacks them once again. Despite his severe injuries, Matsuzaki refuses to give up. He desperately holds Kuchisake Onna back and tells Yamashita to get Mika out of the house while he faces the evil spirit alone. After a fierce struggle, Matsuzaki finally manages to kill the body possessed by Kuchisake Onna by beheading it. But moments later, another powerful earthquake shakes the house, causing the underground chamber to collapse and bury both Matsuzaki and Sasaki beneath the rubble. The following morning, the bodies of Matsuzaki and Sasaki are discovered beneath the collapsed underground chamber. However, the nightmare is far from over. The spirit of Kuchisake Onna is still alive. It is finally revealed that Kuchisake Onna was never actually Taiko. She was a malevolent entity that had possessed Taiko decades earlier. It was this evil spirit that caused Taiko to lose control of herself, driving her to abuse and even murder her own children. After Taiko was killed by Matsuzaki, the entity did not die with her. Instead, it continued to survive by moving from one woman's body to another in search of new victims. Although it constantly changed hosts, the spirit always chose to appear in the form of Taiko with her grotesquely slit mouth. This was because the legend of Kuchisake Onna was born from the tragedy that befell Taiko. From that day forward, the entity continued appearing as Taiko, using her horrifying appearance to spread terror wherever it went. After everything was finally over, Yamashita managed to rescue Mika and bring her safely out of the red-roofed house. Later that afternoon, she was finally given the chance to reunite with her daughter. Standing before her ex-husband and her daughter, Yamashita sincerely apologized for all the pain she had caused in the past. She admitted that she had often taken out her frustrations on her daughter, leaving her with deep emotional scars. After everything she had experienced, Yamashita finally realized how precious a child truly is and deeply regretted the mistakes she had made. Fortunately, her daughter accepted the apology and the two shared an emotional embrace. But their happiness was short-lived. Not long after reuniting with her daughter, Yamashita suddenly began coughing. Moments later, her face slowly transformed into the terrifying visage of Kuchisake Onna. It became clear that the evil spirit had never truly been destroyed and had now chosen Yamashita as its newest host. And with that, the story comes to an end.